Hey, what's up everyone? I hope you guys are having a great day. In this video, we're going to discuss how to use functions in Python. So a function is a block of code that runs when we call it. And it is very useful because we can use functions as many times as we want. So let's consider an example. We have a function named print menu, and you can name this to anything you want. We're just gonna call it print menu. And what this is going to do is it will print out the menu. We have a $5 hamburger, a $3 hot dog, a $2 coffee, and then a $1 ice cream. So let's see what happens if we call this function 3 times. As you can see, the function will print out our menu 3 times. The reason why this is useful is because you only need to call one line instead of having to write all of this 3 times. So if we don't have any functions, then we will have to write this and copy and paste, and we have to do it 3 times. So let's get rid of that tab, and we have to do 3 times. And you can see that this gets messy very quickly. So that's why it is much better when you use functions. For our next example, we will write a function that determines if a number is even or odd. So the first step is to include the keyword def, and def means to define a function. So we define a function called check even or odd, and it accepts a number. Now note that instead of saying number, usually we just write n because it is way shorter. We will have if n mod 2 is equal to 0. If you remember from our lecture on operators in Python, what does this symbol mean? Well, this here is the division symbol, and this here means to divide and get the remainder. So if n divides 2, and we basically get the remainder, and the remainder is 0, then we know that n is divisible by 2. So if n is divisible by 2, then we know that it is even, right? So we return a string called even, else we return odd. To call this function, we will say check even or odd and pass in 2. And because the function is returning a string, we need a variable to accept the string. So we'll have result equals check even or odd, and then we print out the result. And let's go ahead and do this again for number 7. So copy and paste here, result 2, and change this to 7. As you can see, for the first one, it will print out even because 2 is an even number, but for 7, it will print out odd. Now, instead of storing our result inside a variable, what you can also do is just put this function inside a print statement like this. And we do the same for 7. So what happens here is this is going to return a string, and it will be printed by the print statement by default. If we run this program again, it will also print out even and odd. And I think that this is a much cleaner way to write it. Let's create a function that acts as a calculator. So we have a function calculate. It will accept 2 numbers, a and b, as well as the operation that we want to perform on a and b. If the operation is a plus sign, then we will return a plus b. If it is minus, then we will return a minus b. If it's multiply, then we return a times b. If it's divide, now here we have to be careful because if we have division by 0, we can actually crash the program, and we don't want that. So if the denominator is 0, then we just say that we have an invalid operation. Else, we can return a divided by b. And this is the way to call the functions. First, we want 3 divided by 0 just to see what happens. And secondly, we have 5 plus 4. As a result, the first one will return invalid, and the second one will return 9 because 5 plus 4 is 9. Next up, we're going to write a function that accepts a list of numbers, and it finds the sum. So our function will be called find total, and we have our list as a parameter. We also need a variable to keep track of the total. We run through our list. So for each number inside the list, we're going to add that number to our total variable and then return the total. So let me explain what's happening here. So first we have total equal to 0 at the very beginning. And then for each number, right? So we start at 3. And then this operator means to add to our total. So we have 0, then we add it to 3, then we have 3, then we'll add our next number. So we plus 7, this gives us 10. And then we're here, so 10 plus 2 gives us 12, and 12 plus 1.2 is 13.2. Let's run the program. And as you can see, it does print out 13.2. One last example for today, and I'm going to show you how to use default parameters in a function. So let's say we have a function called welcome, and all it does is it prints out welcome and the name of the person. So here we have a variable called name, and name by default will be set equal to valued customer. This means that if we call the function without passing anything in as an argument, then by default, it will print out welcome, and then it get this, put into the variable, so welcome valued customer. If we actually pass something in as an argument, so here we pass in John, then it will not use the default, but instead it will accept John, so welcome John. And as you can see, the first one, it will print out welcome valued customer, and for the second one, welcome John.